Hey guys, Tyler Berger here with Bass Fishing HQ, and today we're going to talk about the top 3 bass rods that you need. So before we get started, let me tell you that this is personally my opinion on the top 3 rods that I think that you need. If you live in Florida, your top 3 rods may be all flipping sticks, right? If you live in New York, your top 3 rods may all be spinning rods. Like, it's gonna be different. The 3 rods that I have selected, in my opinion, you can actually fish about 80 to 90% of all the techniques out there with just these 3 rods. Now, they may not be the absolute perfect match for that certain technique, but you can get away with it. So whether you only can bring 3 rods on a fishing trip, or maybe you're a co-angler and you want to get in some tournaments and you only have money to buy 3 rods, or you're just starting out, I would recommend these 3 rods because, again, they're going to allow you to fish about 80-90% of all the techniques that we have in bass fishing. All right, guys, let's start with rod number 1. And rod number 1 is a good old faithful sissy stick, all right? The spinning rod, right? This is a 7-foot medium action spinning rod. And this rod right here, I think, is very important to have because this is gonna allow you to do all of your finesse style techniques, which is extremely important in this day and age, right? So your drop shots, your wacky rigs, your Ned rigs, your spy baits, your little Texas rigs, you can do that all with this rod right here. If you want to throw a tube jig on this rod, you can do it with this rod right here. Again, this is a 7-foot medium action rod. And really the only thing that you have to do basically with any of these rods is you just have to choose a different line or different reel to go with the rod, and you're going to be able to do those techniques. Now for me, I'm basically going to use a 10 to 15 pound braid on my rods at all times. Now it's just depending on what I'm doing. And I'm going to connect that to a fluorocarbon leader, and that fluorocarbon leader is going to be probably anywhere from 6-pound line to 15-pound line, depending again on what the technique is. If I'm skipping a wacky rig around some heavy trees, I might want to put 15-pound line on there. It's still going to allow me to skip that wacky rig. It's still going to let that wacky rig to do its thing, but that way I have a little bit of oomph to get that fish out when I need to. Again, so rod number 1 is going to be a 7-foot medium action spinning rod, and that's going to allow you to do, again, all your finesse techniques. All right, guys, so rod number 2 is a 7-foot medium action Baitcast rod and reel combo, right? So again, all you have to do is adjust your line, and you're going to be able to do a multitude of different techniques, right? So for instance, put 10 to 12 pound test line on, and you're going to have a great jerkbait rod. You're going to have a great rod for throwing medium diving crankbaits, right? Put 12 to maybe 15-pound line on, and now you have a great rod combo for your square bill crankbaits and fishing around wood and a little bit heavier cover, right? Another thing that I love to do with this rod is use it for topwaters, right? So at that point, I'm going to put 30-pound braided line on, and I'm going to attach that braid usually to a small monofilament or fluorocarbon leader, real small, maybe only about 1.5 feet long, and that's going to be great for your topwaters, you know, for your poppers or for your walking style baits like a spook. This becomes a great rod. Again, I would recommend, if you get a 7-foot medium action rod, try to find one that has a parabolic bend. In my opinion, that's the best kind of bend to a rod that's really going to allow you to keep more fish on, especially when you're using treble hooks, right? Because when those fish dig at the very last minute, when either you're bringing them to the bank or you're bringing them to the boat, it's good to have that rod absorb a lot of that pressure from that fish diving down. Instead of those hooks ripping out, that rod is going to absorb it. And that is why, again, I love this 7-foot medium action rod. I can do a ton of different techniques with this. All right, guys, last and definitely not least, the third rod that I would recommend that you get is a 7-foot 3-inch medium heavy to heavy action rod, right? And again, same thing with the other rod. I'm going to adjust my line, and that's going to allow me to throw a ton of different techniques on this rod. For instance, if I put 50 to 60-pound braided line on here, it's a perfect frog rod. I'm not only going to be able to skip it underneath docks and overhanging trees, but I can throw it over pads and matted vegetation, and it's a great frog rod for that, right? Another thing that I like to do is simply use it as my pitching and flipping rod. So I put 20-pound line on it, throw a Texas rig or a flipping jig in it, and I'm flipping and pitching the bank with it. Perfect rod for that. Another thing that I love to do is I put 15-pound line on this, and now it becomes kind of an offshore style rod. So I can throw flukes weightless, or I can throw a big worm on this rod and reel, or I can throw a football jig down a bluff bank or on some offshore structure on this rod. This is a great rod, again, for a number of different techniques. I'm also not opposed to using this rod on a spinner bait or a chatter bait or a buzz bait. It's a great rod for that, and it works really well. Again, you just have to adjust your line. Yeah, you know, typically with this rod, I'm going to use anywhere from 15-pound fluorocarbon to 65-pound braid, right? So again, a 7-foot 3-inch medium heavy to heavy action rod, that's going to allow you to do a ton of different techniques with this rod. And that's the 3 rods now that I think, again, you're going to be able to do a lot of techniques. So guys, go out, buy you these 3 rods, whether you're just getting started bass fishing, whether you've been in it in years and you just need to put a couple of rods on the front deck. Choose these rods, and you're gonna be able to do almost anything that you want. All right, guys, thanks again for watching this video. Please like it, subscribe to the channel, guys. I got a lot more content coming out this year, and please comment below. Let me know what your favorite 3 rods are. I'm sure they differ from mine, so go ahead, tell me below what your 3 favorite rods are. Have a good day. We'll talk to you in the next one.